Mrs. Storm.
Good afternoon. This is a hearing of the Chatham Conservation Commission being held on July 9th, 2025, in accordance with the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, excuse me, and the Town of Chatham Wetlands Protection Bylaw and Regulations. My name is Karen Latin, and I serve as the chair. Today's hearing is being broadcast live on Xfinity Channel 1072 and is being recorded for the on-demand archives available on the town's website. It is being conducted in person, by phone, and by video conference. The agenda, instructions on how to attend, and copies of documents for review are posted on the town's website. To all participants, whether attending by phone or online, please remain muted unless you have been recognized by the chair. When recognized, please identify yourself for the record. If you're attending by phone, you can mute and unmute by using *6. If you are online and you are not a commissioner, please keep your camera turned off unless you've been recognized. Indicate that you wish to speak by using the raise hand feature. So that we have a record of a quorum, I will now ask each commissioner to indicate their presence. Vice Chair Paul Johnson.
Present.
Elise Gordon.
Present.
Janet Williams.
Present.
Eric Hilbert.
Present.
Bob Del Vecchio.
Present.
And I'm here, so we've established that we have a quorum. Before we begin the agenda, Paul, are there any announcements about any requests for continuances today?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Yes, we have several. 734 Fox Hill Road has been requested to continue July 23rd from the September, July 23rd, 2025. The next one is 98 Oyster Pond, and the applicant's requested a continuance to September 10th. 784 Orleans Road, the continuance will be to August 27th. And then finally, 32 Bog Way has been withdrawn by the applicant without prejudice.
Okay, thank you. At this point, Paul Whiteman, Chatham's conservation agent, will now lead us through the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First on the agenda is 734 Fox Hill Road, Willis Barton Row, map 12M, parcel W1, SE10 3731. Site redevelopment, it was continued from May 14, 2024 and June 11, 2025, and there has been a request, as I said, to continue to July 23rd, 2025.
Okay, thank you. I think we just need a motion, please.
I move that we continue 734 Fox Hill Road to the meeting on July 23rd, 2025.
Second.
Okay, Bob,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Elise.
Aye.
And I say aye. Thank you. So the next one, Paul.
Following applicant has requested a order of conditions, 27 Strong Island Road, William C. Benjamin, map 12M, parcel 16B19, DEP number SE10 3726. Project is replacement of an existing patio and walkway with dry laid ashlar bluestone and dry laid brick, reconfigure patio steps, and landscape improvements. Project was continued from March 12th, 2025 and March 26, 2025. ZBA approved on 6/26.
How are you?
Good.
And you've read the order?
I did. I had a few comments that I sent in to Crystal.
Right. That was the last time, correct? Or did you send more comments since the last time we heard the order?
I sent a few comments about 2 hours ago.
Oh, okay.
I only received the revised order this morning around 8 o'clock.
Okay, I did not receive.
They're not substantial, so we can go through them pretty
Okay,
quickly.
if you would, yeah, I don't have them. So if you could go through them, I would appreciate it.
So the first thing is really just a question whether the order should mention the fact that there was a hearing on the draft order on April 9th. It only mentions today's hearing.
That's because, I mean, we can add it to the public hearings before that, but, and we will. Is anybody in it, or should I do this? Okay. I think we'll just, yeah, exactly what you're doing. We will add it to when there were public hearings, but the draft order will state today's date. Okay?
I wasn't sure whether it should mention the special permit granted by the ZBA. Does that appear in the order, or?
No.
That's completely
No,
separate?
they're completely separate from us.
Fine. Then a question as to the prohibition on clearing vegetation prior to September 1, whether that would apply to our project, or can we start removing some of the vegetation as soon as the order is approved?
Thoughts, people? It's normally, we say September 1st.
Well, the
We,
biggest problem we have is it's still technically nesting season, so, you know,
Right.
we don't usually allow that.
All right, not a big deal.
I'd prefer to leave it as September 1st because that's our normal date.
Fine. Then, page 11J, paragraph number 2, there's a statement that all replacement vegetation has to be native, but that's actually contradicted on the next page when it's stated that in the non-disturbed zone, everything has to be native, but in the outer aura, only 75% needs to be native. So if we could just strike that word native there on page 11J, paragraph 2, right at the bottom of the page.
Where it says all disturbed areas during construction shall be revegetated with suitable native,
Right,
and you don't want the native?
right. Because if you go to the next page in paragraph
Right,
3.
I see it in 3.
We know that 25% in the outer aura can be non-native. I think as long as it says according to the approved plans, we're okay,
Yes.
because that specifies exactly what's supposed to go where.
I agree.
So we can take that out then.
Yeah, so we took out the word native.
Yep.
Anything else?
And then the last comment was 11G, paragraph A2, a requirement that we engage a qualified consultant contractor approved by the commission. I thought that the last hearing, you had agreed that given the limited scope of the project, we wouldn't need to do that.
I do remember that.
Gosh, I don't, but it was too long ago.
Yeah, I do remember talking about it. As you can tell, we did not review this again after having reviewed it. So I think, so you'd like that whole number 2 taken out, I gather, since
yes.
it mentions consultant contractor several
Right.
times
Right.
in each sentence.
Yes.
So what if we changed consultant contractor? I'm trying to think, because, I mean, we want to make sure that what's done is what was approved, and usually that's why we say the contractor.
Who is actually going to do
He's
the work?
doing it.
You're going to do it all yourself, or?
We'll do some of it ourselves. We'll have some other contractors doing it.
Different contractors doing different parts of it,
Yes.
so there's not any one.
Right.
Well, maybe a project this small, the agent can come and, you know, when you're done and look at it.
Thanks for volunteering.
Shouldn't take.
I'm sorry, I
take-
shouldn't laugh,
It
but,
shouldn't take long. It's a pretty small project.
No, we can do that.
how about we change to by the homeowner?
Yeah.
By the homeowner,
Rather than,
and then, as,
Supervised, monitored by the owner?
yes. Well, and the agent who will, if you have any questions or issues, he'll come when you're done. we're just trying to avoid something where you're partway through a project, you've made a decision, it ends up being something that the commission would not have approved. So we don't want to have you end up having to take something out, so that if you have questions through the process, you need to be able to stay in close contact with Paul.
Okay,
How's
all
that?
right, that'll work.
Okay, we have made that modification. Anything else?
No?
Okay, then, anybody else have any comments and questions?
I had a couple in there, but they're just mostly technicalities.
No? Okay,
I'm going to accept all these, stop tracking.
yep.
Done.
All right, so we can go to a motion, please.
I move that we approve the order of conditions for 27 Strong Island Road as modified.
Second?
Okay, Elise?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Oh, Paul?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And
Close the hearing.
Bob?
Aye.
Do this. So that-
Yeah, we forgot
Yeah.
to close.
It's okay, when you move
Okay,
to
you're all
approve an
set.
order,
Great.
move to
just
close
us.
the hearing, and approve the
Thank you
order,
very much.
so that the hearing, nothing else can happen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next on the agenda is a request for a determination of applicability. The address is 70 Sears Point Road. The applicant is Susan and Greg Shorten, map 11A1, parcel 7-5, R-2510. The project is repair an existing beach access stairs, landings, and elevated boardwalk in kind. The project did include a proposed fence, but the applicant has made a decision to include that in the notice of intent they're filing for the larger project.
Okay,
No.
so who's here for this RDA? Okay, hi,
Good
Tim.
afternoon. Hi, can you see me and hear me?
Yes,
I should-
thank you.
all right. With your permission, I'll quickly share my screen so you can see the plan.
Yep, please, thank you.
I am hoping you'll be able to see this in a second. You can see that?
Yes, we can.
All right, excellent. So the property is located, again, for the record, Tim Santos from Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors, representing the applicant. The property is located at 70 Sears Point Road. Resource areas on or within 100 feet of the property are coastal bank, land subject to coastal storm flowage, coastal dune, coastal beach, and salt marsh associated with the Oyster Pond River. Property is developed with an existing single-family home, attached garage, lawn landscaped areas, as well as a few patios. If you've been to the site, there is an existing wooden beach access set of steps that runs down the bank to a landing and a boardwalk, and a set of steps to the existing pier. They are in need of repair for safety measures. I have submitted both this plan as well as a supplemental filing that kind of shows the steps. There's a few photos here that I'll kind of run through quickly. You can see that they're old, they're in need of repair. The applicant has recently purchased the property, so they are looking to kind of repair this wooden structure that's been there for many years and upgrade it with some new wood for safety reasons, tripping hazards. There's nails that are sticking up as well as splinters everywhere. So there's no excavation work involved with this. It's just removing the boards and replacing them in kind. They'll be replaced with a hardwood, something that's suitable and acceptable to the commission. So that is my quick presentation for you, and I'll stop sharing and then answer any questions you might have.
First of all, I just want to make sure, because this RDA was modified a bit, it does not include the fencing that originally you had. I just
That
want
is
to make
correct.
sure we're all on the same page on that.
Yes,
Okay.
we were asked to take the fence off of this and include it within the notice of intent application that will be before you.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Commissioners, anybody have any questions, comments about this? Go ahead, Janet.
Okay. Just want to note on the plan, it does say wood steps to be repaired in kind, and I think the accurate language there is replaced. Are you
Yes, it
repairing
should be
certain parts and replacing bits, or are you replacing all of it?
Yeah, we're replacing all of it. All of the wooden steps need to be replaced. If you look in the supplemental package that I submitted, you can pretty much see that all the steps in the landing, the wooden flat surfaces need to be replaced.
Oh, I know, I walked them, I know exactly what kind of condition they're in, but I'm just quibbling with the word repaired in kind on the plan that we're going to approve can give a misconception about what the nature of the project is. So they are going to be replaced in exactly the same dimensions that exist now?
Exactly the same dimensions.
Same
Exactly the
dimensions.
same dimensions. That is correct.
And what about
Within
the
the same-
support beams? What about the?
So the support beams below will not be replaced. It's, I'm gonna call it the, what you kind of physically see, the railings, the flat surfaces that you walk on and the steps.
Okay, so it's the railings, the steps, and is the boardwalk and the, I would call it the landing at the bottom of the steps, the same dimensions that currently exist?
Correct,
Okay.
correct. There is no increase in footprint.
Okay. And so it's going to be treated hardwood, or what is the material that's?
It'll be a hardwood that's acceptable to the commission. The contractor has not been selected yet, so they don't know what specific type of wood, but it would be a wood that's acceptable to this commission.
This is an RDA, so we, how do we specify? We're just,
Yeah.
normally when we have an order of conditions in an NOI, we can specify or say it has to be approved, but this is an RDA which doesn't give us that kind of opportunity. It can, I mean, we can condition it,
You can condition it, yeah.
so we can put in the language that we usually use for, I think what we would say, since you
Walkways.
don't know, we have special, typical language that we
Yes.
use for, piers and walkways. We can put that in and ask that, once the decision has been made, that it be taken to the agent for approval, so that we have and if he thinks we ought to look at it, then we'll do that. But otherwise, it would be just a quick approval process.
That's not a problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I just had a quick question. So the spacing's gonna be the same on the boardwalk? The
That is
spacing-
correct. Everything would remain the same. We're just looking to replace the weathered and deteriorated wood for safety reasons.
Well, if we're putting in our verbiage from the orders, normally, we do specify the spacing as well. So you would need to follow that criteria as well. We will make sure that all of that gets in there into the RDA approval.
That
I
would be
think
for the
it's
boardwalk, the
3/4.
landing.
Yeah. And that's okay with you, 3/4 of an inch spacing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it needs to be repaired, so it's gonna have to be okay.
Okay, good. All right, anybody else? Bob?
Yeah, hi, so the support structure is sound enough to leave in place?
The support that is correct. At this time, the support structure does not need to be repaired. It's more of just the steps, the railings, and the landing.
Okay, so there won't be any excavation at all?
There's no excavation that was written in the RDA.
And I have a question on the beach itself. You have a couple of lengths of wooden fence on either side. I guess it's close to the, well, you can see on the plan. What are those those what's the fencing all about?
I believe those are old, just kind of wooden, storm fences, rack fences. If you've been to the site, they've been there for years.
So you're not planning on,
Yeah, we're not
adding more
planning on
fence or anything like that?
No, we're not touching any of that.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? All right, I think we can have a motion, and it should also specify that we will be adding the normal conditions from our order, our template.
I move that we approve the request for determination of applicability with a -3 determination for 70 Sears Point Road as modified.
Second.
Okay,
-2, sorry.
yeah. Bob?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Janet? Aye. Elise?
Aye.
And I say aye.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next on the agenda is another request for determination of applicability. The address is 0 Champlain Road. The applicant is Cornelia Atkins, map 13A, parcel 16C-3, R-2511. The project is removal of a rusted drainage pipe. No ZBA is required. And Catherine Ricks is here to,
Good afternoon. Catherine Ricks, Coastal Resilience Director, here on behalf of the applicants. So Paul has a couple slides he'll show. I don't know if you guys got a chance to go out there. So it's a rusted drainage pipe that was put in probably years ago on the beach. Right where the grass is coming up, it's completely eroded off, rusted out, and so it's kind of dangerous to be there on the beach. So for public safety reasons, we would like to remove it. We're going to have DPW removing it. And if Paul wants to go to the last slide, the access is actually a pathway that's already there. They're just going to remove that one section of the fence and have a little machine that goes down there, remove the pipe that can be seen, kind of cut it off, maybe pull back a little bit of sand, cut it off, and leave it for now. The picture on the right there is where the drainage is from the road, so it's coming from there, and we are going to look further into if it's completely blocked or another form of drainage, so it's not just going out onto the beach once we have a chance in the fall. But for now, we're just asking to remove pretty much what you can see on the beach. Yep.
All right, anybody have any comments, questions about this?
Catherine, would there be an additional filing for the new drainage
Yes, it'll
site?
be we are thinking about a whole new drainage structure for the roadway there that wouldn't even have the pipe going out to the beach. It would be a self-contained drainage structure.
Good enough, thank you.
Do you know offhand how its relationship to the, I was gonna say, underground retaining wall that's along there? Does it go through it, underneath it? How does it intersect that? Or is
We're
that-
not
is that
sure,
an
so we're
unknown?
gonna look more into the researching like exactly where this goes, but it looks like it's straight up from that drainage structure that's in the roadway, which also is straight across from the little marsh area
Right.
that's at 138 Champlain.
Right.
So we believe it's all attached, but looking at it there, it looks like it all got filled in with sand on that side of it. So that's why we want to do more on that drainage structure in the roadway and kind of determine how to take care of all the drainage in the road there without it going onto the beach.
So do you think it was originally intended to drain that wetland across the?
Potentially.
roadway Onto the, yeah.
And the road, yeah,
Yes.
both.
Okay. And no way of telling us whether anything's coming out of it if it's not operating or, I've never.
We couldn't tell. We tried to look at, we couldn't really tell if anything was. I mean, it's
Yeah.
definitely, the grass is definitely growing right there, so
So-
potentially, but the rack line is actually up further on the beach, so the tide is coming up also in the tidal cycles, so we're not really sure if it's the
All-
metallics from the pipe that are helping the grass, or why that grass
TBD,
is really
so
strongly there.
Good to see how this will play out over the next
Yeah.
period. Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, Paul, is this a negative
2.
2? That's
Resource
right.
areas are 2.
Yep.
3 are buffer zones.
Yep. Neg 2. Okay,
I move that we approve the request for determination of applicability with a -2 determination for 0 Champlain Road.
Second.
Elise.
Aye.
Janet.
Aye.
Paul. Eric.
Aye.
And Bob.
Aye.
And I say aye. So you're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Paul, next one.
Next, we'll move on to submitted notices of intent. The first one is 98 Oyster Pond Furlong, Stephen A. and Haley G. Nadas. I apologize for my mispronunciation if I did mispronounce it. Map 13E, parcel 29-11A, DEP number SE 103682. The project is construction of a beach access catwalk. It was continued from May 8th, 2024, and the applicants requested a continuance to September 10th, 2025. It needs ZBA approval.
Okay, thank you. So we just need a motion, please.
I move that we continue 98 Oyster Pond Furlong to the meeting on September 10th, 2025.
Second.
Bob.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
Janet.
Aye.
Elise.
Aye.
And I say aye. Okay, the next one, Paul.
Next on the agenda is another notice of intent submission. The address is 784 Orleans Road, Town of Chatham, map 11J, parcel 6-6, DEP number SE 103729. The project is enlargement of a boat and trailer parking lot within land subject to coastal storm flowage. It's down at Riders Cove. Relocate historic communication tower within the buffer zone to a coastal bank. It was continued from April 23rd, 2025. The applicants requested a continuance to August 27th, and it needs ZBA approval for the tower.
Yep, thank you.
Anybody know whether it's been filed with ZBA yet?
It, don't believe has.
No, that's what I saw. She's,
Special,
There.
nope, not, it has not. So that's why they are continuing.
what are the chances they're going to get a
Weren't
hearing
they-
before August?
They're Greg and Catherine and somebody from the DPW are going to have a meeting. There was some spot elevations taken. It's within the Conservancy District, so they have to meet with the building inspector to decide whether there's a prohibition, there's no variance procedure for it. They had to figure out some way to sort of get it around that or permitted, so that's what's holding it up.
Yep. So that gives them like 6 weeks to
Yeah.
answer
Yeah.
that question and come back to us and either we continue. Okay, that seems fair.
Okay, so we just need a motion.
I move that we continue 784 Orleans Road to the meeting on August 27th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, Bob,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Elise.
Aye.
And I say aye. Okay, the next one, please.
Next on the agenda, Madam Chair, is 32 Bog Way. This is a notice of intent. The applicant is Sean and Alice Bartram. Map 6C, parcel 21-7, DEP number SE 103728. The project is proposed tiered retaining wall on a slope above the existing dwelling and the lawn. It was continued from April 23rd, 2025, and the applicants requested to withdraw the application without prejudice, and there's no ZBA required.
Okay, we can have a motion, please.
I move that we accept the request to withdraw the application for 32 Bog Way without prejudice.
Second.
Okay, Elise.
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
and I say aye. Okay, the next, Paul.
Next is another notice of intent, Madam Chair, lots 28 and 28A, Stetson Cove Road. Bradley G. and Peter W. Watts are the trustees, map 11B, parcel W2, DEP number SE 103733. The project is demolition of existing dwelling, construction of a new dwelling, swimming pool, and patio within the buffer zone to a coastal bank, and invasive species control within the coastal bank and land subject to coastal storm flowage. It was continued from June 11, 2025. No ZBA is required.
Thank you.
Good
Hello.
afternoon. David Clark, Clark Engineering. We have CC from Blue Flags. I apologize for not being at the on-site. I was able to go to the first one, but I was out of town for the second one. But I hear it was a very good meeting, and CC's here to talk about what you all discussed.
Okay,
I
thank
hope.
you.
Thank you all for meeting us on Monday. I thought that was really helpful. It's really valuable to be able to walk through the project all there together. And so based on your feedback from the last hearing, we've made some adjustments to our plan. And,
I'm just putting the plan up if you want.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So we've separated the two lots. The northern lot is lot 28, the southern lot is lot 27. This page is showing our tree inventory that Mike and I went and we counted each tree to be removed, and we,
If you want to use the pointer.
oh,
Thank you for using my laser printer.
oh, nice,
Laser pointer, I'm sorry.
thank you.
Moved on up.
So lot 28 on the north and lot 27 on the south, with corresponding tables that show the tree species and DBH caliper size. And we also hand wrote on each tree its number and caliper size, just to help with that. And then if you scroll back to the top, thanks. Separated out the plant schedules to show the plant schedules for lot 27 and lot 28 as well. And just to go over once more, on lot 27, we're proposing to replace 28 trees and 212 shrubs, and we're removing 7,000 square feet of lawn and restoring that as meadow, and we're managing over 21,000 square feet of invasive species and 1,700 square feet of Phragmites. And on lot 28, we're proposing to replace 21 trees, 127 shrubs, remove over 5,000 square feet of lawn and restore that as meadow, manage over 12,000 square feet of invasive species, and 4,600 square feet of Phragmites. So it's very valuable, this invasive species management and lawn restoration as meadow. It's all happening, mostly happening within the coastal bank and salt marsh area, and removing the invasive species and restoring this area with proposed and the existing native vegetation will have a positive impact on the health of the ecosystem and will further support a biodiverse native plant and animal community. And I did make a slight error. When we went and counted all the trees, we were able to more specifically identify, and the count was slightly off, and I failed to change that in our plan note. And so I would resubmit a plan with the correct number of trees. That was my error, and I apologize for that. And I think with that, I'll take questions that you may have. Thank you.
So, because it's still one plan, and I get that you've separated them out by property and let us know which is which, can you just repeat how many, we're talking about 28 and 28A right now. So how many trees are coming out?
On lot 28,
I think, I think it's 32, but is that where you miscounted, or?
yeah, 31 white poplar and 1 dead pitch pine
Okay.
on lot 28.
So 30 trees, 32 trees out.
And then
And how many, can you give me the square feet of what's being done for 28? Because I don't see in the notes, the one that I have
right,
that's got the plant schedule separated for each one. The notes don't separate out.
right, which was my,
And when we're doing the order,
Right.
we need to have it
I
separated.
separated out the square footage for each lot.
Can I
Yeah.
ask a clarifying question here?
Yeah.
We're going to be writing 2 orders, one for
Yes.
each one. So each one, yeah, will need to have all of
Okay.
the numbers.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I can further clarify that. Yeah,
Yes.
sorry.
I mean,
Yeah, it's a little odd, yeah.
yeah, that's why I'm
Yeah.
asking, a good reason, part of the reason. And so I think I'll let others ask questions while I try and figure out what it is I want to ask. Anybody, questions, comments? Go ahead, Derek.
Yeah, I just want to say that the site visit was great, it worked in your favor, actually, to have the site visit. It's not as intimidating, and just the Phragmites alone, to me, is great mitigation for this project. It's going to be quite a job, but I think it's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Janet.
Just to, yeah, if you can clarify for each one, so for 28, we have 32 trees out. You said 7,000 square feet of lawn removal. Is that the figure, or is it around
Yeah,
7,000?
it's definitely, so for lot 28,
Yeah.
it's 5,603 square feet of lawn removal.
Okay.
And then the 7,000 was for the other lot.
Oh, 7,000 is for 27?
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna make a note of that. So that's 27 trees and 7,000 lawn. And the Phragmites on 28 is,
4,674.
wow, okay. And on 27, that's the 1,700?
Yes.
Okay.
Um,
And then invasive, when you say 21,000 square feet of invasive species removal, does that include the Phragmites?
No.
Okay, so in addition, 21,000 square feet, and that's on 28? Wow. Or is that for both?
It's 12,735 square feet on lot 28
And 27?
and 21,840 square feet on lot 27.
Wow,
Mhm.
okay.
So we're going to need all of these your notes.
Yes. I think the notes could be
It
Clean up
might
better written.
Just clean up the notes and put those
Yep.
specific
Yeah.
figures.
Yes.
But while we're doing this plan will get filed with both properties.
Okay.
So,
Also, the trees coming out, also on the tree inventory and possibly even, I think also on the other new plan, which was the planting and mitigation, you have the top of the bank, coastal bank marked in the green. You need to put that one's the 50 and one's the 100. You don't have those
Oh,
marked.
sorry. Yes.
It's fine, I'm just saying, and we're going to need the analysis of how many trees are required to replace all these trees that are coming out. I know, and we've discussed it, that, it's impossible to put this amount of trees back in. And we're gonna have to come to some sort of conclusion on that, but we need to have that noted, that you're taking out this many trees on 28 and 28A, and this, based on our regulations, this is what would be required to be replaced.
Okay.
can I just jump onto that?
Yes, please.
So
I
in the
saw you-
notes, and what I recall from last time, despite the 2-to-1, because of the issues that you identified in the density of planting, you were going to do 1-to-1, so the notes do say 51 replacement trees going in. So are those numbers going to be the same for 27 and 28 relating to the numbers coming out, or are they going to be in different
I can separate them. It sounds like I should kind of further separate.
As separate as you can, because these are 2 orders.
Yes.
That's where we're coming from. We have to put in all our findings, and all this is part of the findings. And we have to justify the findings with our conclusion.
Right. As well as the, so the 341 native shrubs going in, again,
Separate.
separated because they'll need to be accounted for each order,
Yes.
needs to list them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to point out that CC did provide two separate tables, one for lot 27
Right,
and
yep,
27A, and one for lot 28 and 20.
Yes.
Okay, just to clarify that the
No, I
number
know
of trees
those.
and shrubs on each lot are there. Okay.
Yeah, no, we saw that.
Okay.
And I do appreciate that.
Yep.
Wait.
But, you know,
I think
the
what I-
Number of
notes,
shrubs.
the plan notes.
Yeah, no,
don't
understand.
coincide with that separation.
Understood.
That's
Here it is,
where
here,
I'm
okay, the
coming
plan
Yep.
schedule, yeah. I keep jumping, every time I try
And
to
then
come in
on
it jumps.
page
Look at that.
2, where we provided the tree table for the specific tree counts.
Yes,
It's really loud. I just want to clarify, you'd like us to add a note based on your
Okay.
previous mitigation requirements when this was filed.
That's all.
Some of them would have to be replaced at a 3-to-1 because they're in the resource area, and some of them at 2-to-1 because they're in the 50-foot buffer.
Right.
So you'd like a separate
Okay.
table for
Got it.
that?
well, or just stating
Okay.
this many trees within the resource area are coming
Okay.
out. These are in the NDZ, or these are in the outer aura, you know,
Okay.
and based off that, I'm taking
Yeah,
out
that's-
3 trees in the NDZ, so I need to put 6 in.
Right. I was-
Okay.
You know,
I'm having
that type of
problems
thing.
reading the-
Okay,
You know, like you usually do in your
Replacement.
plan notes, you'll
Yeah,
say,
Right.
we've taken out and at 2-to-1 and 1-to-1,
right,
this is
right.
what will be
Okay.
planted.
Okay, understood.
Thanks.
Yep.
I know this is very confusing,
No, it's just, I just
partially
want to make
because
sure that we're,
it's 2 properties with 2 different orders.
yes,
And
no, that's clear.
if they were all filed together,
Yeah.
This one, they're going to have.
Be a lot easier
27, and this one.
for
they're gonna
us.
have 32. Yeah.
so,
They're going to
Okay.
be separate owners.
I just wanted to make sure I was clear and understood so that when we come back, we have it.
no, I appreciate it, and we want you to have a clear idea.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Just
Janet,
a
keep
question
going.
for us to think about as we approach order writing in this, and that is, so there's 2 different things happening here. One are the trees that are replacement trees, for the ones that are coming out, and the other aspect is the mitigation for the coverage. What gets tricky is that 28 is where the coverage increase happens. 27, there's actually a coverage decrease, which normally you would say doesn't need mitigation. So, but it has mitigation, so I'm just gonna look at everybody and say, we're gonna have to
I know.
say that the mitigation that goes with 27 is not for the coverage, but just for the overall and ecological impact of this project, or something like that. Or it's further mitigation for the removal of the trees on 27, something like that, because the way
Right.
this coverage is working.
I think one of the challenges and one of the things that makes it even more confusing is when you go out to the site as it exists today, the houses are all spread out over the entire site. All the structures are spread out. So when we approached it, we were really looking at it holistically as one
Right.
entire area.
Which you would.
Wait,
because it-
yeah.
Exactly.
It is, right.
So I think it's just making sure, so again, when we're thinking about the restoration portion of it, we were also looking at it holistically. So yes, there will be more trees on one site than another. So I believe 32 are coming out on lot 28, and we're proposing to plant, I forget, 28 back or something, but then we've got more on lot 27. So it is,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
And I think the other part of it too is it's all one family, which also makes it.
Well, that's what leads you to doing it this way in a more
Yes.
holistic, but, you know, what we're talking about here are two
Completely, yes.
waterfront lots with
Yes.
large, nice houses being put
Yeah.
on them, so they're not going to be co-owned by the same family forever, and there will come a time when they are both owned by, so these separate orders have to
Yes.
stand on their own.
Understood completely.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Anything else for, go ahead, Elise.
I have an annoying point that I keep bringing up on these types of large numbers of trees going out, and 25% of the tree replacement is serviceberry. Is serviceberry really a tree? I look at Eric and Bob for feedback on that too. It's shown as both when I read about it, and I try to be fair and up to date, but they will never grow to be what is there now. They're gonna be shorter and shrubbier, right?
They get to be about 15 feet tall. I guess it is kind of like what the goal of the site is if we wanted to replace full canopy trees. An Amelanchier is not a canopy tree, it's a mid-story tree. We love this tree. It has so much value, wildlife value, supports like over 200 species of caterpillar, has wonderful fruit for the animals and humans. So we find this tree to be really valuable. I think that the goal was not to replace a canopy, it was to replace a biodiverse, multi-layered vegetative plant community.
Which, because of the poplars, is not there, doesn't exist at the moment.
Yes.
There's no understory, there's no ground cut, there's no nothing.
Right.
That's why they have to go.
Right. Anybody else?
Karen?
Yes, Paul, I'm sorry.
I think Commissioner Hilbert brought this up, but one of the most important aspects is the Phragmite removal, which we don't get a lot of.
A lot of detail on? or-
Well, we don't get a lot of we don't have a lot of applicants come in and actually do it. Occasionally we get it. So how long does it take in terms of structuring an order or ongoing conditions? Is it completed in 3 years? I would assume you'd have to continue
It's
in an ongoing fashion
at least
beyond
5
3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's similar to
The applicants-
Japanese knotweed, so we'll get really good control over it in the first 3 years, but we'll find some coming back, so we'll want to continue to follow up with it and do some ongoing management after the initial 3 years, probably for another couple of years.
And does it end at some point, or do you just?
I mean,
is
so
it-
we
is it in
can-
perpetuity?
So most of our sites.
Forever.
I know, exactly. I mean, the nice thing and the reason that we're proposing to take this on as a Phragmites management project is because it's limited. It's not in the salt marsh area, it's limited in the areas where we've got some freshwater seeps. So I do think we can get really good control of it. If this were a site where the Phragmites were completely, surrounding the entire area, then we are reluctant to suggest to people that they undertake that because it's going to be like pushing that rock back up the hill in perpetuity. But here, I think we can get really good control of the Phragmites in this area because it's limited, and that we don't have Phragmites in the surrounding properties that aren't managing it.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you.
Can I just follow up on that? So, we will have our normal condition that the mitigation area that is adjacent to invasive vegetation, and that includes invasive vegetation that's been ostensibly removed, does have to be monitored for any possible return of that in
Yes.
perpetuity, basically, so that at least the mitigation that you're putting in is protected forever.
Yes.
So that if any signs of Phragmites coming back, be zapped.
And I think we discussed at the site visit that the property to the south, there is some poplar on the property to the south. One of the good things about managing the poplar on this property is we're going to prevent it from continuing to sucker into the property to the north at 22 Captain Sears, where we've already undertaken that management really successfully. So we will have to monitor that property line on the south.
And you're going to put in a mow strip to
We'll have to put in a
access
mow
it
strip
so
to
that
have
you can do
access so
that.
we can get in there and make sure the poplar's not moving
And
back in.
that'll also be a continuing condition. Okay.
All right. Anybody else? I do have a letter that came from an abutter. It says, "I am commenting on behalf of the Wells family. We are abutters to the southeast of this project. We're concerned with the removal of so many old trees. Although not native, they nonetheless are large, some probably 100 years plus, mature trees that form a canopy which provides a large amount of shade to subject and neighboring properties. They also provide habitat for all kinds of wildlife. Perhaps the removal of poplars could be limited to not include the poplar trees in the southeast quadrant of the plan where our land abuts the subject properties. If the removal goes ahead, we hope that new planting will be composed of large trees that will replace the lost canopy in the not-too-distant future. Thank you for reviewing our comments," and it comes from Douglas Wells at 70 Stetson Cove Road.
So I think the species that we're proposing include red maple and tupelo to replace. They're both
Right.
fairly fast-growing trees, particularly the red maple. So I think as far as canopy loss, there will be some canopy loss for a temporary, for a short period of time. There is also still a number of healthy oak trees and pitch pines within that area. Those will obviously be remaining. If we don't remove the trees, they're going to continue to sucker back in. So we're in that bit
As
of a
we just
conundrum.
discussed.
Exactly. So we would certainly consider, and we are being very careful to make sure that we're also providing a significant amount of screening on that southeast property side, so that we are being thoughtful for the neighbors
Yeah.
directly abutting.
Okay. Thank you.
So I have a related question. Because these poplars are so tall and straight growing,
Yeah.
is there a use to be made of the wood? What's going to become of what is cut down?
They go to get cut and go to a composting facility, but I am not a wood specialist, maybe.
No, you don't want to use those
No,
poplar for
no
anything.
poplar for anything?
No, they're not even really good for firewood. They're not a good wood for,
They're so tall and straight.
yeah, but it's not a, I don't know what the.
It's not a
There's a t-
hardwood.
It's
there's
not
also-
even,
there's
it's
just
not
a
even as good as a pine, it's just that
Yeah.
no one uses them. There must be a reason for it. I think they're very spongy, they hold a lot of water.
And a lot of carbon dioxide that's going to get released.
Well, I mean, the idea of having a low establishment will be a benefit because you'll attract a lot of pollinators.
Yeah, no, I
and
think
you're
that the
gonna-
ultimate plan is
But
good.
maybe on the very far end for the neighbor, I don't know, you putting some trees there to make them happy, or?
We've got
Yeah.
a significant amount of trees going in along that southern property line and continuing further to the east. There, we've got the red maples and the tupelos going in as we head further east on the property, and then the eastern red cedars as we move more towards the west. That will continue along that line where the arborvitaes are located, so to continue screening along that edge.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Bob.
I got a question on the landscape plan by Andrew. In our jurisdiction, what is the lawn going to be made up of? David?
I think that was asked last time. I think
Yes.
Andrew had a note on there that would be the
Fescue clover.
Fescue, I have written down, but I don't know why.
I don't see a note on the plan, that's the only thing.
Yeah,
And it should be non-irrigated as well, the turf.
Well, you'll have to temporarily irrigate it to get it going.
yeah.
right. But no permanent.
So could he add a note? No permanent irrigation in our jurisdiction, and it's gonna be a fescue mix.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. I think we have to continue this to a future meeting. How's August 27th sound?
Sounds fine to me. Yeah.
Yes, we could do sooner. I don't know if you have something before that.
We are getting incredibly full.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be difficult to do it sooner.
Okay.
We already have quite a bit on for August 13th that's been continued or new applications, and we're not even close to the deadline. And so I think August 27th is sort of the soonest.
Okay.
Okay. So, and I'm sorry, but it's just, we're getting slammed. Paul, if you could do a motion to continue it to August
I
27th.
move that we continue 28 and 28A Stetson Cove Road to August 27th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, Bob,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Elise.
Aye.
And I say aye. Okay, Paul, I think he's going to open it, but I think we've already pretty much discussed. All right,
Okay, I'll just read the legal
Yeah.
ad then. Lots 27 and 27A Stetson Cove Road, Bradley G. and Godfrey D. Watts, trustees, map 11B, parcel W2, DEP number SE 103732. Demolition of an existing dwelling, construction of a new dwelling within the buffer zone to a coastal bank, and invasive species control within the bank and land subject to coastal storm flowage. It was continued from June 11, 2025. No ZBA is required.
okay. Do you have anything additional for 27 and 27A?
I have nothing additional for 27 and 27A.
Okay. Anybody have any additional questions, comments for this property versus 28? I think in the future, maybe we should just open both at the same time, because they keep getting discussed together. So, yeah, I mean, sort of like what we did when we were doing all the Tulipy Run properties. So we will then continue it to August 27th as well.
I got a.
Oh, Bob, I'm
One
sorry.
more comment, Karen. Same thing on the lawn, David.
Okay.
Yeah.
On this one.
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
think everything that was said about 28 and 28A should be assumed it's the same for this. Yeah, but he doesn't have his hands raised. Okay, is there anybody else who wants to comment? No. Okay, if you could continue it to the 27th as well.
I move that we continue 27 and 27A Stetson Cove Road to August 27th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, Elise.
Aye.
Janet.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Bob.
Aye.
And I say aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
And Paul, the next one.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next on the agenda is a notice of intent. 70 Sears Point Road is the address. Susan and Greg Shorten, map 11A, 1, parcel 7-5, DEP number SE 103735. Project is demolish and renovate a portion of an existing dwelling addition, 2 decks, a viewing deck, a rinse station, and mitigation. It does need ZBA approval.
And they're continuing it, correct? To August 27th. Okay. Then if we could, yeah, this is the part that's being continued. Just the RDA went today, and they're continuing it to deal with the fence, and I think they need to apply to ZBA as well.
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't have that note on my. I know.
It just came in, that's why.
I know.
So that's fine. So if we could have a motion to continue this one.
I move that we continue 70 Sears Point Lane to August 27th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, Bob,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Janet, Elise,
Aye.
and I say aye. Okay, the next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next on the agenda is another notice of intent. The address is 70 Plum Daffy Lane, Plum Daffy 208 Nominee Trust is the owner. Map 9A, parcel D14, DEP number SE 103736. Construction of a patio within a buffer zone to a coastal bank. No ZBA is required.
Good afternoon, David Clark, Clark Engineering, on behalf of the trust, and we also have Phil Cheney here, prepared the mitigation plan for the project. You saw this as an RDA a few months ago. We're back before you with a project to expand the patios, or add patios to the project. And as I explained a couple of months ago, when the house was built in 2008, the floodplain was different, and made a finding at that time that the top of the bank was the top of the revetment. Now that the floodplain's changed, it's moved up the slope into the unrevetted portion of the bank, and that shifted the top of the bank to the first observable break, which is considerably closer to the house. It's almost a 50-foot shift in the 50 and the 100 between 2008 and now. So now it's a considerable portion of the house is, well, all of the house almost is within the 100-foot buffer to the top of the bank. In the plan that was approved in 2008, there was an extensive patio that was permitted around the pool, almost 1,400 square feet of patio. That was never built. So after being in the home for quite a while now, they've decided that they would like some patio. They know they can't ask for what was permitted before, so it's considerably less. It's I think the net increase in the 50 to 100 is about 300 square feet, a little more. And because of the shift of the resource area, the existing house and all the improvements on the property are over the 35% maximum that the regulations now require. So we are asking for a variance for this small increase. The second aspect of the project, there is basically a bluestone step that they would like to add to the porch that faces the water. 8 inches, I believe, is the width for the entire length of that. What they're finding is the landscapers in their string trimmers trim that grass and do a number on the wooden structure. So they're finding that they're almost sanding and repainting that almost every year, because so they just want something to step down to keep the landscapers away from it. And it's a very, very modest increase in the no disturb zone. Phil's here to talk about the mitigation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions on the site plan.
Okay, Bill?
Good afternoon, Phil Cheney, landscape designer. You're looking at the mitigation plan that I submitted on the screen now, which includes both the schedule of the plants proposed, along with the calculations below that. And they're required by your regulations is a total of 327 square feet, plus or minus, and we're proposing plus or minus 395 square feet. This would be all located in the northern corner of the property. You see it up at the top there. There's currently a walkway that takes down to the water around through an adjacent lane that exists there now. That pathway is quite broad and can really be, should be brought down closer to regulation. So we're using shrubbery along both sides to condense that. The lower portion, the portion that's within the 50 to 100 that we're mitigating, has been used occasionally as a parking space by vehicles that use that lane, and they'd like to try to eliminate that. So that's why we're planting in that area as well, including some white pines to add some beef and withstand car traffic in that space. So I think most of the good part of the mitigation is in the 0 to 50, and we're also doing great work by eliminating the parking in that area.
Okay, thank you. Anybody want to start? All right, well, first of all, I know you said you need a variance, and I didn't see an alternatives analysis. Do we have one? And I missed it?
Should have been there.
I quickly looked again, just to make sure, because sometimes I miss them. Oh, yes, there is. Okay, do nothing or project as proposed. So no other alternatives other than do nothing.
Well, I mean, a practical alternative is that they could use that area as a patio without putting the patio in, and then you have lawn chairs out there, and it's gonna get beat up, and then you're gonna have a degraded lawn. So at the end of the day, you're gonna be close to the same situation.
Right.
And they did really make an effort to keep it as small as they needed, knowing that there was that significant shift in the resource area.
So all that stone to the left of the, what I assume is the dark black is the patio, that's the fire pit?
Those are basically flat stone all around them, so that is not set in concrete, so that's all semi-pervious.
Okay.
So the total of the darkened patio area and the stones around the fire pit is that 300 square feet increase.
Okay. Anybody else? Bob?
So David, now, right now, you're 42.4%, 50 to 100, and then you want to go up to
45.
45.1%.
Yeah.
With the increase.
Death by 1,000 cuts.
I had a question for Phil, too. The mitigation, the 3 white pines,
Yes, sir.
they're pretty spaced pretty tightly, aren't they?
Now, they're about 10 foot on center, I'd say, and they're 8 to 10 foot on center.
Oh, 8 to 10?
That's about the norm. I'm never big on mitigating off in the distance somewhere out, but I guess they want a view from the pool. They don't want anything, I mean, obviously not the white pines, but the plants. I'm always a big believer in adding to the bank, but such a small project.
I thought exactly. I was wondering, why wouldn't you just add a VDS along the back?
Well, because
I like the idea of narrowing that pathway to use it less and to do something to prevent the parking in that area. Actually probably has a bigger
Yeah.
ecological bang.
Yeah.
That was
So
my feeling.
I got convinced on that.
Anybody have anything else? I struggle with the 45, but I know that they've, 45% coverage, but, I mean, I know they've worked hard to keep it as small as possible. But it's hard to,
I think one of the mitigating factors on that is, as David said, the shift in the locations of the top of the
Exactly.
bank. And so we're at this
Exactly.
40-something because the entire house is in the NDZ.
now, yeah,
So.
I know. And so that was my big
That was never
struggle.
permitted, that just happened by, by law,
Yeah.
the change in the law. So I
Yeah.
think we can say that in the order, that helps to
Yes.
justify because we're way over at this point.
We are. And you
Yeah.
always struggle with that, but I get
Yeah.
it, and I get why, and I appreciate that they've kept it as small as possible, so.
Yeah, and the patio is wedged right up into,
Yeah,
it's
it's very small.
It's very small.
When my guys used to do that with string trimmers, I made them go out with hand shears for a week for a punishment.
Good, and, yeah, 'cause that's,
Oh, yeah. Boy, I'm glad it didn't work for you. Then I think we can go to an order. So,
I got a
Go ahead, Bob.
question. David, what is it like, what's it gonna be, like bluestone or something like that? patio?
Yes.
Is it going to have grass in between the stones, or is it just
I
going to be
don't know
set
if it's
into?
grass or,
I can, the fire pit patio would have grass in between the stones. The rectangular patio would not be tighter set.
Yeah, so it would just be set into grass,
Oh,
the blue stone?
Definitely, yes. No, it's,
Yeah,
it's really the look they wanted to achieve there is that.
yeah,
the
natural,
grass,
yeah.
the
yeah.
grass in between, so there'll be ample,
Well, that helps, yeah, it'd be more infiltration,
Definitely.
yeah. Okay, thanks.
Now I'm struggling with when to schedule this order. How about, I mean, it's not going to take a huge amount of our time at any meeting. How about August 13th?
it's fine with us.
Okay, so we will continue to August 13th for an order of conditions.
I move that we continue 75 Plum Daffy Lane to August 13th for an order of conditions.
Second.
Okay, Bob,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
And I say aye. Okay,
Thank you. Thank you all.
thank you. The next one, Paul?
Next on the,
Before we start, should we open these two
I was
together?
going to suggest that,
Yeah, because even though they're separate,
yep.
okay.
So we'll
Thank you.
read these together.
Please.
Next on the agenda is notice of intent for 53 Little Beach Road. Monomoy Rips LLC is the owner, map 16A, parcel H50, DEP number SE10. I just went on the portal, I didn't see the number up.
Okay,
Demolish existing dwelling and construct new dwelling within land subject to coastal storm flowage. In conjunction with this project, 47 Little Beach Road, Monomoy Rips LLC is the owner, map 16A, parcel H52, DEP number SE103737, demolish existing dwelling and construct new dwelling within Title V subsurface sewage disposal within land subject to coastal storm flowage. ZBA is going to be heard on 8/14/2025.
yes, that's what I'm seeing.
Oh, boy, we got the big guns here today, so it's pretty important.
You have to use the.
All right,
David Clark, Clark Engineering on behalf of the applicants, Bill Riley, Mike Tanis, and Teresa from Blue Flags. Just want to make one correction. And Paul had sent me a note, wanted me to take a look at a few things, and while I was looking at a few things, something struck me as being off on the calculations on site coverage. So I have a revised chart. If you want a hard copy, I could pass it out now. Primarily for the existing dwelling on number 53 Little Beach, we show it as 659 square feet. It's actually 1379. So that reduces the net increase on 53 from 2,633 down to 1,913. What struck me was I was looking at the numbers and say, there's no way we're tripling the size of this house. And so I went back and looked at the numbers, and it was considerably different. Sure. What's on the site plan is 659 as the existing dwelling on 53. It's actually 1,379. And I might as well pass this.
Oh, I see, it's just a repeat and carryover from 47, the smaller house. Yes, the smaller house was carried over, I see that now. I wondered about that. Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Okay.
This is,
So the increase is only 1913, okay, yep.
so that's 47. This is 15.
So, I think I don't know how many of you were on the commission when this was before you a few years ago.
I remember.
That project never went forward, obviously. we have new owners that have a different vision for the property. So, but it's, the fundamental portion of it is about the same. They're going to demolish both cottages and build new cottages. The resource areas that are involved is a coastal dune on the east side of both properties. And behind number 53, what used to be a lawn is now reverted to a marsh. And it's basically an inland wetland at this point. The entire property is also within the floodplain. So there are no portions of this site that's outside of a resource area. When the septic system was, the existing septic system was put in back in, I think, the early 90s, a retaining wall was put in to minimize the amount of fill. And we show that on the plan, and that's basically where the naturalized portions of the property begin. So everything towards the house from that retaining wall is pretty scruffy-looking Cape Cod lawn, and up to and around the dwellings, and all the way out to Little Beach Road. So again, can demolish both buildings. Both buildings will be placed on a FEMA-compliant foundation. Because of the floodplain change, they're going to be significantly higher than what's there now. So that leaves the logistical problem of how do you get from the house down to the ground level. So not only is the dwelling on 53 getting larger, but because it's so much higher, we had to work in some stairs to get access to the building. There is also a larger deck proposed on the water side. That deck is all within the area that's going to be disturbed with the new Title V system. Because we're demolishing both buildings, we're bringing the system up to code to minimize the amount of fill in the floodplain. The septic system will include an IA system for reduction of nutrients. Under the state permit for the technology, we have a choice of either reducing the footprint of the leach field or reducing the depth of groundwater. Because of the sensitive nature of this particular property, we have the isolated wetland across the street, and the proximity of shellfish beds to the east and southeast. We chose to maintain the separation of groundwater and reduce the size of the footprint of the leaching facility. So that's the smallest size system we can put on the property while maintaining the required separation of groundwater. So as far as alteration of resource areas, we are within the 50 and 100 from the isolated wetland, and we are within 15 and 100 from the coastal dune. We do not show the 15 and 100 from the dune. We can certainly add that to the plan. It doesn't change any of the coverage numbers because the coverage numbers that was included in the NOI are based upon the entire lot being a no disturb zone because it is in the floodplain. So whatever increases are being proposed, we're at the 2-to-1 mitigation at a minimum. All of the alterations are primarily within portions of the site that have been altered in the past. These cottages have been here since the 20s, I believe. One of the earlier ones that the Horn family built. So it's been used as a residential property for nearly a century. There really isn't any wildlife habitat, so to speak, in the areas we're altering. That being said, as you can see from Teresa's plan, we're adding back quite a bit. So if there's any questions on the site plan, And as far as the septic system, placement of the houses, the elevation of the houses, be happy to answer them. Otherwise, Mike is here to talk about the restoration.
Okay, guess, Mike, why don't you go, and then we can open it to questions and comments from everybody.
Okay. Mike Tanis, Blue Flax Design. David pretty much laid out the existing conditions. As he said, most of the upland is almost entirely mowed and maintained as Cape Cod lawn, with the exception of a little area near the southern property border where you see some native pines and cedars and oaks and bayberries. The coastal dune is in good condition. It's standard, typical vegetation. It's a patchwork of open sand and beach grass with bayberry in the low-lying areas. And then closer to the upland, closer to that wall, the stands of bayberry get denser, and it's kind of transitioning to a young coastal forest. You start to see some pitch pine, red cedar, and black cherries. So we are proposing to restore 10,243 square feet from what's currently Cape Cod lawn back to native habitat. We're proposing to remove the concrete retaining wall to the southeast of Building 53. And then that will be graded to a stable angle of repose after the construction, and we will seed that with a mix of native grasses and wildflowers and cover it with biodegradable erosion control blankets. And then in early spring, that area will be plugged with bare root American beach grass to further stabilize the slope.
I don't think they're taking that out.
The few invasive species on site will be cut flush with the ground and removed. Systemic herbicide will be applied directly to the cut stump, and the roots will be left in the ground to decompose. Bare and disturbed areas after construction will also be seeded with that mix of grass and wildflowers. Woody vegetation will be planted after that. We're calling for 277 native trees and shrubs, including serviceberry, eastern red cedar, bayberry, beach plum, baccharis, bearberry, inkberry holly, and arrowwood viburnum, basically mimicking the community that exists off-site. Additionally, 129 little blue stem grasses will also be planted. Temporary irrigation will be required to get the plants established for 2 or 3 growing seasons, and it will be removed once they are established.
Yes. A lot of great.
Okay, thank you. So this reminds me of Stetson Cove. I've got 2 properties, 2 separate NOIs, and the plans, everything is for the whole 2 properties. So first of all, I can't tell, and maybe you can tell me, where is the property line for the properties between them?
That is the common line.
Where the 40, I think it's 47, you're building right on top of the property line?
Well, it's currently
Well,
over.
right now, the structure on 47 is a couple of feet over the property line.
Okay,
There's this
So we're moving it back. So that's why primarily, or a portion of the increase in building coverage for for number 47 is going up, because there's 40 square feet or so on number 53.
okay.
It's going in here.
So,
So there is a net increase in building coverage on 47, and it's primarily a covered entry. That's right,
Existing.
right there.
and, okay. I'd like to see the mitigation and the numbers for mitigation broken out between the properties, because when we do the orders, we have to put these numbers in, and right now, we just have a grand total. So I struggled with that. Why are you moving all the 2 homes closer to the 50 rather than, I mean, they were a little further back before. Just curious.
Basically, the direction of flooding. We know that the inlet is moving south. There is a barrier beach there right now,
Right.
which popped up somewhat quickly and could go away somewhat quickly. So the high water mark back in 1988, 89 was quite close to this house. And so they've had 40 years, almost 40 years of accretion there. That might not always be the case. The second reason is there is a roadway between the project and the isolated wetland across the street. It's not much of one. The folks down at Starfish Condominiums really don't use it anymore, but it is still a walking path, and people use it to go to various beaches in the area. So we moved it back for that reason, and also in looking at when that septic system went in the 1990s, they had to have disturbed quite a bit of the area on the water side of that retaining wall to build that retaining wall. And that vegetation has come in awful thick right up to that wall.
Yeah.
So the biggest bang for the buck was to remove that wall and blend the mitigation into that naturalized area, so to basically to continue that and enhance that naturalized area between the property and the harbor.
Thank you.
Can I just follow up on that quickly?
Yeah.
So, right now, though, the drop in grade on either side of the retaining wall is pretty, it's what, 3 or 4 feet? So, when you remove it, are you going to, I'm not seeing the grades being smoothed out, but I imagine, how do you deal with that, with what's going to be?
So when we filed this with zoning board, building commissioner and the zoning agent looked at it and asked me to sharpen my pencil on the fill on that side of the property. So I did. So the original plan that was filed showed the toe of that slope being east of the bottom of the wall, so there was a little bit of fill into that naturalized area. So by redoing all that and changing it slightly and tightening up the grades, the toe of the slope is now going to be on the west side of that wall. So that's the reason, another reason why we don't need the wall anymore. And you could switch to the engineered site plan if you can.
Where's the proposed 6?
Plan revised, yep. Yep, nope, down, yep, that one. So, down in this area, we now show the 8-foot contour
Yep.
on the west side of the wall. The top of the wall is about elevation 9. So we'll be able to stop the filling and regrading right at this point and not get into any of that naturalized vegetation. So we'll be able to work from the west side of that wall to remove it, and then the clean material will be brought in to construct the septic system, the minimum amount that's required, and then that area can be restored without getting into that area at all, into the naturalized area.
Where roughly would elevation 6 lie? Just on the other side?
Elevation 6 is down
Down
here.
And that would remain?
Yep. So we can actually tighten up the work limit now to be right at the wall, since they can do all the work from the other side. There's elevation 6 right there, and it basically dies into the wall somewhere in here. And this is all higher than elevation 6.
So you give us coverage percentages within the NDZ and floodplain. What is the percent in the outer aura?
We
It
didn't
looks like
calculate- yeah,
it's like the,
Yeah, so since the entire site is in the floodplain,
I
that's why
know.
we did it that way. I can give you a calculation, and the numbers should add up to the total that you have already, of what's actually in the
I'm
50 to 100.
mostly concerned about the percentage, because it's 35% is our reg.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if we were into the 60 to 70% existing.
Exactly.
And,
Hence why I'm asking. And again, although this time I've checked a couple times, I still could have missed it. Do you have an alternatives analysis?
pretty sure
I sure didn't see it. Did anybody else see it? Maybe it's just me today. It says variance is
Yeah.
required, but it doesn't say, I
Let me,
can't find.
Let me find, excuse me, if somebody else wants.
All right. In the meantime, anybody else?
Yeah, well, I just like to bring up the elephant in the room, probably why Bill's here, is I mean, it's your God-given right to replace the structure, what's there. It's in the floodplain, and I'm just concerned with this increase on the structure or the footprint it's taking up. I mean, whether it's closer to the road or closer, that doesn't bother me as much, and your
Right.
explanation was good. But you have considerable amount of increase in square footage. Did you count up the square footage of the wall you taken out to give you credit for some square footage?
He'll answer.
That's a David question.
He's coming. No rush.
But, you know, it is an elevated landform. And so I think the fact that there's an expansion,
See, I told you that's why Bill's here.
you know, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
you know, it's not something that, in general, would displace any floodwaters.
The retaining walls for the septic system was included in the site coverage for 53. So we do show a reduction in walls. But I can get you that exact number.
Well, that'll help you with some square footage, but,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
is there?
it's already in there, so.
Oh, so you've included the square footage to go against the increase of the structure?
Well, there's not so much the increase in the structure, but other site improvements like the decks and other retaining walls and walkways and things.
Oh, okay. I mean, is there any way that you can maybe, I mean, you got a deck on the south side, and, you know, maybe you could reduce a little bit on somewhere, like the deck goes the whole length of the house. I mean, could you make it to knock off some of the square footage to compromise here? I mean, it's quite an increase in square footage.
And we can consult with the owner.
I think we could probably take some square footage out of the deck.
Okay.
I know I did an alternatives analysis because I remember struggling with it. And it's not in the file, and obviously it's not attached to my narrative, so I have to go find that.
Okay, just because we'll obviously be continuing it, so whenever we're meeting again. Anybody else? Bob?
Yeah, I had a question about the other retaining wall that's going to remain. Why is that going to remain?
Oh, the one around 47?
Yes. I mean, it looks pretty ugly right now, and it's not,
Works.
It's not gonna
That's why it's
serve any
that's
purpose,
saying.
correct?
Yeah,
It's, right now, the septic system's within it,
Is in it, yeah.
but that's gonna be removed, correct?
It will be, yes.
Yeah, but there's no other outside space around the house,
And
so.
the other reason is, in past experience with projects like this in this neighborhood, the zoning board has concerns about exposed foundation. And because this house is significantly higher than what's there now, we left it for the specific purpose of having 2 tiers of vegetation, to screen that foundation. So, otherwise, if it's removed, there's 4 more feet of foundation that'll be exposed. We can cover some of that with vegetation, but it'll be a long time before it's completely screened.
Well, one of the problems we have is that after the zoning board approved 46, which is the building across the way, that announces itself with a huge retaining wall when you drive in there,
Like the one across.
has
Hideous.
been something that the zoning board considers a black eye. They approved it.
They weren't happy.
But now, when we last appeared before them with this property, it was really a major issue. And so we're trying to avoid that. It also gives the 47 a little bit of outdoor space too, so.
Well, not much usable outside space. If you look,
No, but
looking
it's-
at the mitigation, I mean, the thing I like about it is that the mitigation basically surrounds the house.
Right, but it doesn't look like it's, a mountaintop
Right,
the way 46 does.
it does. It does, I know.
It sure does. Bob, did you have any?
So it's gonna be a shared septic system?
Yes.
And I had a question about the mitigation, the microclover lawn, fescue microclover lawn. It's a lot of sun there. Is the microclover gonna grow well? A lot of sun,
Yeah, in our experience, it does well.
even without irrigation?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be maintained as a Cape Cod lawn, so whatever will be there, will be there. Whatever lives will remain.
Yeah, in my experience, the microclover doesn't like the heat and the sun.
So this may be a case where we go more for white clover than micro clover. The white clover does really well and it stays green throughout the year, even when the grasses are dormant.
Right.
So that's something that we should consider on this particular site and switching the micro clover out for white clover.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a perfect site for beach grass.
When you think of all the fog they have down there, it's gonna stay nice and cool.
And last time we visited this site, there was Japanese black pine within the dune areas. Will that be addressed at all? No, it's invasive.
We are not in this plan calling to remove it.
Good for the woodpeckers.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else?
I have a question for David about the topography and the grading. So currently, as I'm trying to figure out the existing grades, the highest elevation where the houses are is at 10.
Correct.
Where does the V-zone start? Where's,
The V zone is, if you can pan, yep, it is actually. If you can pan down, Paul, it's down there. Where am I? Right
well, that's 15, but then as you were saying, the topography drops, so it goes then down to 4.
I thought you asked where the V zone was.
Yeah,
So-
but,
So that's the transition from V zone to A zone, and so this section of the property is all A zone.
Right, but even though the property drops after that, you know, that's the high point where that V-zone line is, and then it drops down.
Yes, it does.
And then you have this slight elevation where the houses are creating kind of a bowl, which
Yep.
always strikes me as like a big invitation for, you know, water to accumulate.
Oh, absolutely,
there.
yeah. I mean, you always see a dip behind the primary dune. It's always lower, and then you have undulating dunes behind that.
So when this was built, was this area filled to create the higher area for where the houses sit?
I think in the late 80s, the high water mark was here.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
And this is all accreted since then.
If you remember, well, if you were here, after 1987, when the break first occurred, the erosion moved north of the break, first of all. And that's when we lost the 10 houses up by Hallway Street. Right, so then, amazingly, the erosion moved south. If you remember the Nelson House, which was immediately south of the tennis courts, had to bring in sand because they were like 14 feet from the high water mark.
Right.
Now they have a retaining wall, they have a wall to protect themselves from the dune that's built up. And so there's been so many changes in here that it's really difficult to describe exactly what happened when, but this is the end result. And we don't think, we think if anything, the V-zone's gonna be move further away, because we think this whole process is moving southeast.
Two questions for that then. One is, so let's talk about that dune. You're showing it per the DEP map. It basically goes up and wraps around 47 to the north. Is that dune migrating? Is it moving?
Well,
Because of 100 years of residential use, it's being kept back. I do have an aerial photograph from 1959 when the causeway was built, and a lot of that dredge material was placed around all these cottages. And so,
That's
who knows what was there before that, but that was 1959. So this area was barren because of all that fill in 1959. I don't think it's moved much since then because of the height of the dunes that are in front of this. So I think it's very stable around the houses, and if it wasn't for the human activity, I don't know where the edge of the dune would actually be.
Right. So it's likely to stay where it is.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So you're showing, though, that from what is existing at 6, 8, 10 elevations, leading on both sides, sloping up to where the houses sit, up from what is currently now 6, you have 10 and 12, up from 6 and 8 and 10. What is the fill calculation for creating that to put these houses up
I
there?
can get you that
Yeah,
increase.
okay.
Yeah. But basically, we're going from elevation 10 right around the existing house up to 12 and a half.
Yeah, right.
For finished grade.
Okay. Is there any indication that any of the potential future flooding could come from the BVW across the street rather than from the
That
side?
That floods on a regular basis now because the lack of vegetation in the middle of it. I was there in the end of March to mark the site for doing the perk tests out there, and the water was almost into the road in front of the house. So it was flooded, and so the official flood insurance study for Chatham states that the direction of flood for this property is from Stage Harbor. But standing there on the crest of the existing septic systems, that's not what pops into your head. No, it's definitely coming from the east. And so there's always going to be a potential of flooding from the west. It depends on the storm. We get a northeast storm, a 3-day one like we've all seen. Flooding is going to come from the east.
Except that there is in that 2019 Storm Tide Pathways report that Mark Borelli did, is showing
Yep.
potential flooding coming from.
Oh, absolutely. If we have a hurricane,
Right, right, that fills up,
the flood's coming from the other direction, absolutely.
Yep.
South of that.
Yep, the storm surge is coming from the
Yep.
south, from the hurricane.
Yep.
So this is a unique property in that they're susceptible to both storms.
It's pretty good.
I mean, this area flooded to, I think, elevation 8 during the 93 storm.
What about 2018?
It was less, I know Thad Eldridge has information when, after the 93 storm, because his father was hired by the town to go out and mark the rack lines around town. And in this area,
It was elevation 9 in this area.
Yeah, it was 9,
Yeah, it
that's
was
what I
pretty-
saw,
yeah, it was-
somewhere 9.
so.
No, get out of your car quick and get in the house.
Isn't this where they showed that famous photograph of the Coast Guard with the
Saving
with the
people?
inflatable
Yeah,
Yeah.
vehicle coming in and getting people out of these houses?
yeah.
That's what I thought. I thought this was this neighborhood.
Yeah,
9,
that was
okay.
the
No, Again, it's not our, like I think Eric said, it's not our job to comment on, the wisdom or not of projects in terms of, we try to protect the environment there, not the house. But,
Well, the goal is to make sure that nothing we do
right,
adds.
so back to the point that you were making about there's no possibility of floodwaters coming through that are diverted by these very high foundations that are going to be put in. Why is that not a problem under the performance standards for the floodplain?
Well, because the landform is doing the diverting. If the landform washes it away, we still have a right to maintain our house.
So the water was being diverted by the existing dune and the fill that is going to protect the houses. Is zoning going to let you put that fill in?
Well, as the storm comes through and the base flood increases during the storm event, the water is going to travel through this area. But whether this structure is here or not, it's still going to flood to the same elevation.
Right,
So it's not going to increase flooding.
right. No, I'm talking about diversion of stormwater.
Well, in the
Right.
first place, there is no diversion in a tidal flooding. I mean, the water, this is a discussion we've had many times, whether you have a huge pile of sand or a huge hole. The height of the storm surge is determined by factors far out at sea. And nothing we do, man does, is going to change that. And so, as long as it's in a still water flood zone, which we are, the water's going to rise and the water's going to, go away with the tide. But we're not diverting it anywhere.
So.
Not like a riverine situation.
Yeah, so the base flood elevation, not the base flood elevation, the still water elevation for this section of Chatham is, I think, elevation 10.1.
Okay.
So that's with no wave action.
Right, okay.
And the flood heights above that, we're in the A13, indicates that FEMA studies show that we can get 3-foot waves here. We're doing a project right now where we have the Woods Hole group looking at a floodplain and seeing if they can reduce the elevation of the flood. And talking with them, one of the key components in the modeling that they're required to use by FEMA is vegetation. The more vegetation you have, it knocks down the waves. It limits the inland migration of storm debris. So And that's another reason why we chose to move the house to the west a little bit. And then you look at the Blue Flax plan, we're loading up the east side of this property. And we're taking the wall out, so that vertical obstacle is coming out. And so if, during a storm surge, if there's erosion on the slope, so be it. It actually helps to dissipate, the movement of sand dissipates energy,
Right.
whereas that small retaining wall doesn't.
Right.
So we think there's a lot of pluses here.
One last question, I think it's the last, maybe. So because of the elevation, 53 is going to get a garage?
Yeah, because it's got to, that's one of the benefits of the applicants is because we have to go up 3.5 feet, I think, from the existing top of foundation, there's enough room to get a drive on the garage now.
With the appropriate flood vents, or is it going to be more open?
Appropriate flood vents, and one of the concerns the planning board always brings up when they review driveways in the floodplain is the ability of the land to absorb floodwaters. That's more of an inland issue, but to address that, the architect has incorporated into the design of the basement slab a perimeter drain around the whole foundation, and the slab will be set on, I think, 12 or 18 inches of gravel. So the flood vents will let the water into the garage. That perimeter drain will let the water go down under the slab.
Mm-hmm, yeah, like a French drain, yeah, so it will, okay. All right, thank you.
Anybody else? Right, we have a few things we're going to need. You're going to look into making the decks smaller. You're going to give us fill calculations, the coverages, percentage. You're going to mark the 50 and 100 for the resource area.
To do.
Separate
Anything?
Yeah, one other thing, for Blue Flax, the land management plan simply says that there's a small amount of invasives that'll be managed. Can you provide a little more detail about
Yeah.
what it is and how much there is and?
Sure, there's, it's mostly just oriental bittersweet and vine honeysuckle mixed in with the existing bayberry that are there.
And where, is that throughout or in a particular area or?
It's sporadic throughout, but mostly on the southern property side. But you see it throughout below the wall, the existing retaining wall. You'll see sprigs kind of
Okay.
climbing up.
Okay,
And you're going to break out your numbers for mitigation and everything between the two properties so that when we write the order, we can give the specifics for each property since they are separate NOIs.
Yes.
Anything I missed?
The only thing I would say, I think that the deck on the south is,
reduce.
really should go. I
Yeah.
mean, there's no sense of having that there. That'll help you in a lot of square footage. I mean, you already got a deck.
Oh,
You done with this?
this little deck here,
Well, when I saw the stakes, it actually kind of went out pretty good, you know?
they have an access door here. So
Oh,
it's a
okay.
Platform.
Oh, just to
door.
sit out there and,
And because we're so much higher than what's there now, we need all those steps to get down to grade.
oh, I see, okay.
Oh, that's a door, yeah, okay.
Okay. And you're, of course, going to, on the plan, correct for 53, the coverage
Yes.
numbers.
Get you an
Any-
alternatives analysis too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and alternatives. Anything else?
I was just wondering if we could include a note on the
Yeah.
mitigation and restoration
zoning
planting
page.
plan. Again, on the lawn, it's not going to receive any permanent irrigation.
Yeah.
Yes, we will add that.
Thank you.
We're going to.
All right.
August 14th.
So
August
we need to
14th for
continue it.
ZBA.
And,
August 14th.
Yeah, ZBA, August 14th, so.
yeah,
Wait
so
until
we're August 27th or September 10th,
Well, we have zoning on August 14th.
14th,
Right.
yeah. So either of those is
September.
okay for that.
First meeting in September. First meeting in
Preference?
September,
10th?
sure.
Okay. Then we will continue both properties to September 10th, but we will do them as separate motions, please.
I move that we continue 53 Little Beach Road to September 10th.
Second.
Okay, Bob?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
And I say aye. Okay, and the next one.
I move that we continue 47 Little Beach Road to September 10th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, Elise?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
And I say aye. Okay, so we'll see September 10th for these. All right, Paul,
Thank you very much.
thank you. The next,
The next and last item on the agenda before you adjourn is a request for a certificate of compliance. The address is 16 Seapine Road, Edward Acton, map 11L, parcel HC 3, DEP number SE 103773. The project was property redevelopment, construction of a new dwelling and with detached garage, pool, patio, driveway, including including a land management plan. This is a partial COC request. I think Thad's online. The application's complete.
yes,
He's waving.
I'll just chime in for a second. So I inspected it yesterday. I don't know if you all went out there. The mitigation is only a year old. We have a monitoring report from Teresa. It will have to continue for at least 3 years, so we're holding back on that. But it looked to me like the dwelling, the pool, the patio, the dry wells for the stormwater, all were done in compliance with the order. There was mitigation, 3,024 square feet in the outer order and 11,537 in the NDZ. That's, I guess they've gotten rid of the invasive stuff and they're now moving to the next step. So I think in the COC, we should send a letter out, making sure that the owner, whoever that might be, understands they have to continue with this mitigation, because it's just getting started. Other than that, Thad, if you want to, skip to the chair.
yes. Thad, please?
All right, Thad Eldridge, East Southeast, here representing Ed Acton, and I believe they have an agreement that Ed will be in charge of making sure that the land management plan continues through the 3-year period. So we're not
That's
going to get
correct.
we're not going to get a separation between owners.
Okay.
That is correct, yes.
Yeah, Teresa
if there-
just confirmed.
Yep.
Good.
Okay, and again, this is just for the buildings, not for the mitigation or any plantings, because this order is actually only from
2024.
2024, like end of April.
Sold.
Yeah.
Well,
So any other questions, comments from commissioners? Okay, then we can go to a motion, please.
I move that we approve the partial certificate of compliance for 16 Sea Pine Road.
Second.
Okay, Elise?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
And I say aye. Thanks, Thad. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you so much.
All right, we have one more motion. Why? Oh, one. No, we have no minutes.
Nope, no minutes. No minutes.
Nope.
Typo.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, Bob,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Elise.
Aye.
And I say aye. We are out.